Hi guys, I'm Matthew Dispa from Holistic Horsemanship. Today in Horses Made Simple, we're exploring further the idea of adapting to a horse with the case of a mistreated horse that was abused in the past and rescued to be brought to a good home. However, that horse kept a fear of strangers and especially men and farriers, which is actually a very common thing. So the horse could be handled pretty well otherwise, but when it came to picking up her feet, she could get very scared and panic, and she had developed the habit of constantly backing up when she felt insecure. On top of that, her feet were really in need of a trim, because no one would trim that horse, as picking up her feet to trim them was impossible. Previous farriers will go straight to her feet, try to pick them up, the horse will freak out, and they will either get angry at her or give up on her. So here we find ourselves in a very difficult situation because there is an emergency in trimming the horse, but I can't use the method that I usually use, starting at liberty, moving the horse to gain her respect and her trust, and all the things that we've covered in previous videos. Here, I have to gain the horse's trust using a different approach and following a method that works quite well with abused, mistreated, or scared horses in general. In some cases, all you need is to remain calm and confident, no matter what happens, and to give the horse plenty of time. I usually slow down the footage of my videos so you can see better what is happening, but today I'm actually going to speed it up at times because in this case, I had to be extremely patient to be able to get the trim done on that horse. To start with, the first thing I'm going to do is not to go directly for her feet and try to pick them up, which I actually never do. I always approach the horse gently and make sure she's okay with me before trying anything else. I want to show the horse that I'm not a predator. I'm going to greet her with my hand, and as soon as I get the slightest motion forward from her head, the slightest motion towards me, I'll take my hand away and back off. With a horse that isn't secured, I always start by getting her attention and reward her for it and for coming towards me, even if it's just her nostrils coming only a few millimeters closer. This is basically a way to reward the horse by taking the pressure away. In other words, I'm using negative reinforcement. Right from the start, and in order to bring her confidence and trust, I want that horse to know that if she's brave enough to come towards me, pressure will go away. I'm doing it again, and as you can see, maybe I'm a bit too slow at backing off, but anyway, I see clearly that the horse takes her head away and she's definitely not feeling comfortable interacting with me. I try on the other side, and here I can greet her and back off, taking away the pressure before she takes her head away. Good. If I can do that, I'll move on to the next step. I'll try to greet her again and then come towards her shoulder and touch her for the first time. She stands still? Good. Then I go away. Same thing on the other side. I greet her first, then I go for the shoulder, and she's about to move. She takes one step to the side, but then I can touch her body with her standing still. So I back off to reward her and make myself as small, as harmless as possible. Okay, she's sniffing me and she looks curious. It's a good sign, even though she's clearly telling me at all times that she's not comfortable with this situation. Next step, I'm presenting her one of my tools and allow her to have a look at it. Then I take it away. Again, if I try to touch her, she's moving her shoulder away, but her feet stand still. I go on the other side, still holding the tool in my hand, and touch her again. Notice how I change only one thing at a time. Now I just want to touch her like I did before, but this time holding a tool in my hand, and I want to see if she's okay with that. It's far from perfect, but good enough for me to move on to the next step. I'm going to stand by her shoulder and see if I can pick up her foot. Just for a second, then I give it back to her. Good. Same thing with the hind foot. Good. Some licking and chewing, she's processing all this. Same thing again on the other side. That works. Good. Now the other shoulder, but there she starts moving away. She backs off, so I wait for her to come to a stop. And as soon as she does, I back off. But then, something I didn't expect happens. She starts backing off even though I'm still away from her. I'm making myself as small as possible, waiting to see if the owner can bring her back. But the horse keeps backing up for a while. She's actually going to back up a lot, and you won't even see her for a little while. That's when I know that trimming this horse is going to require a lot of patience, if the trim is possible at all. Here, we're going to have to be on horse time and take all the necessary time in order to try to get the job done. To rush it, or to get angry, or to try to force the horse physically is not gonna get us anywhere. Here, I'm gonna have to adapt to this horse and find the best way to gain her trust and hopefully to get her feet trimmed. The owner is doing a good job of getting the horse back calmly to where we were, and in the meantime I'm trying to be as less threatening as possible to the horse, trying to take as little space as possible to convince the horse to get back to where we started. And then we start again, step by step, greeting, touching, backing off. Other side, touching, and I'll try that foot again. She moves, I stay with her, then finally she picks it up. Great. So I drop the pressure and back off. Once again, it's far from perfect, but I can kind of pick up her feet, so I'll try to move on to the next step, which is just being able to clean her feet. I show her the hoof peak, making sure she's okay with that. Then I go for the shoulder, pick up the foot, and I get it cleaned. But there she starts moving. So this is very important. I'm going to try to stay with her until she stands still. I'm not holding her foot hard, just gently keeping it up in the air, and as soon as she stands still for a second, I give it back to her. Then I pick it up again and use the hoof peak, and this time she stands still. Good. So this is decisive. This horse has learned that if there is anything she's unsure of, she should move away from it. It is a natural, instinctive reaction, but it is only training and building confidence that can overcome this reaction. So here, it is really not easy, because if I let go of her foot, I'm going to teach her once again that the solution to her problem is to move away, and then we'll never manage to trim her. But if I do too much in trying to hold her foot or staying with her, if I lose my calmness and confidence for just a split second, I'm gonna freak her out and things might get worse. So I'm walking a very fine line here. Next foot. She picks it up and I give her plenty of time to relax before I start cleaning it. Nice, that one was easy. Next foot, see how I'm not pulling that foot up, I'm not asking anything hard of that horse, I'm working as low as possible to make it as easy as possible, because I know that if I ask just a little bit too much of her, she's gonna get scared. Last foot, the one I thought would be maybe the hardest foot, but there she's fine with it, amazing. Now her feet are clean, so we move on. Present her the next tool I'm going to use, the knife. And here again she gets scared and starts backing up, and I'm not able to hold her foot. That's not good. I'm gonna go behind her just to make sure that she's not going to back up as much as the first time. We bring her back, and here it is again about being calm and confident at all times and patient. no matter what happens. So after that, I'm not gonna try the same thing again right away. I want to get it done, but I'm gonna go back one step to only ask for her foot without using the tool. And I'll divide the process into smaller steps, so it is easier for her to get there. The next smaller step is to use my knife again, but only scratching her foot for a second, then giving the foot back. I'm asking for something easy, that she always get her foot back, and that there's no reason why things should go wrong. The answer I'm looking for is not her moving away, but her standing still and relaxing. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for her. I have to make sure she's okay with that before I can do more. And finally, I can do some proper work with the knife, getting the job done and giving her foot back. Great. I find this very important because this truly allows the horse to understand step by step what is happening and what is expected of her. If anything goes wrong, I get back to the previous step. Make sure the horse is okay with that, then move on to the next step again. And all that without ever losing my temper, getting angry, or having a threatening body language. And I find that this is the best way to trim a horse that has been through some abuse and that has lost her trust in people. From there, I'll use the same process, introducing new tool, pliers. At this stage, one might think, oh, the horse seems okay now and we can just proceed in trimming her as usual. But I'm going to consistently follow the same process because I know that certain very sensitive horses are going to be okay with you cleaning their feet with the hoof pick, for example. But they might jump in the air when you bring the knife, the pliers, or the rasp. They might be okay with you picking their feet up for a second, but they might freak out if you hold them for a little bit longer than they think. They might be okay with you holding their feet gently with one hand, but not if you bring them forward or between your legs. So you'll see this happening several times in this footage. Of course, it is the owner's responsibility to train the horse for the trimmer or the farrier or the vet. If you are a horse owner and you see your trimmer struggling to get the trim done, having a hard time with your horse, or being hurt or put into any sort of danger by your horse, you have to take full responsibility and make sure you train your horse so the professional can do his or her job safely and easily. Not every horse professional is like me, both a barefoot trimmer and a horseman. The trimmer or farrier comes to do his job, which is giving the best care possible to your horse's feet. He is there to provide the best service possible to you and your horse, and he should not have to worry about things going wrong or getting hurt. Having said that, it can be extremely important and useful for a trimmer or farrier to understand horse psychology and horsemanship. Ideally, no professional should be working around horses without a serious background and education in how to handle horses safely and respectfully. From here, I'll speed up the footage so you can get an idea of how patient, calm and confident you have to be in order to get the trim done in some extreme cases. If you stick to these principles, things will get better over time, and the horse that you see on the footage is now way easier to trim than the first time I trimmed her. Basically, this horse must have been through some very bad experiences with farriers in the past, and now the challenge is to expose her to a similar experience, but with a calm and confident energy, so we can imprint positive experience over the bad ones, and little by little, having her overcoming that trauma and stopping to associate being trimmed with something dangerous or hurtful. It might not seem like much, but a lot is actually happening here. This horse went from being terrified of men and farriers to being okay with letting me do my job. It's a big deal for her. It is about gaining her confidence back, while her confidence was completely gone. In the end, even though it is a challenging situation, I'll manage to provide a basic trim to that horse, doing all the most important things that need to be done to keep her feet healthy. So even if you don't have the facilities to do groundwork with a horse, by following this simple technique, changing only one element at a time, making sure that the horse is okay with every step before moving on to the next one, going back to the previous step if something goes wrong, and always being calm and confident and give the horse all the time she needs, you can bring the trust back. transform the horse and help her in every possible way, including taking good care of her feet, which is the foundation of having a sound and healthy horse. In too many situations, I see horses that are crippled or have very bad feet only because no one can or want to trim them. The horse is in desperate need of a proper hoof care, but it can't be provided because the training is not there. So I hope and believe that this simple method can help a lot of horses to go from abuse, fear and pain to trust, confidence and soundness. I hope that helps. Don't hesitate to let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share and subscribe. I'll see you next time.